Okay, so we saw so far that people do conform to each other, people copy each other, mimic each other all the time, right? But why do we do this? So, some of the quick ways of explaining it is that sometimes human beings do this simply because you want to avoid someone disapproving your existence, your entire existence, which this is what we do when our parents get us to behave, right? So we are constantly doing things the way our parents want us, just so that they'll stop nagging us. Or let's take an example from college. You might do certain things in college, dress in a certain way, talk in a certain way, hang out in certain places like the lounge or the library or wherever it is, depending on whose approval you want to gain, right? So people do this because of what we call normative social influence. This is, you want to either be approved or avoid being disapproved by other human beings. The other one is that sometimes we just like taking other people's perspective as other people's perspective or other people's opinion and accepting it as our reality. We like, for example, if someone who I respect or admire says something, I'm more willing to think, okay, so this must be the right thing, or she must know what she's talking about, right? So this is informational social influence, where you are basically willing to accept someone else's opinion about reality or what is happening around you. So we conform for all of these reasons, and there are particular conditions under which we conform more than usual, right? So one of the reasons is actually, unfortunately, if you are made to feel by someone that you're incompetent or insecure or you don't know what you're talking about, you tend to go along with other people, what other people want more. So if you take some time to think about it, we've all had instances where we are in a group and someone talks about something that you don't know about, and you feel like, oh, I don't know where this conversation is going, and you might then follow along and go along with whatever they are talking about, simply because you don't feel so assured about who you are and whatever your beliefs are about the particular topic that's at hand, right? So then the other thing is that if the group has a few more people, so if it's just two people, you feel more comfortable voicing out your opinion. But the minute it has three or more people, the tendency for everyone to go along with each other and conform is increasing constantly, right? Then the other thing, again, you can see this in college, if you admire the group status and attractiveness. So, what you're basically talking about is good looking people or people you consider to be the ones who are running the social scene in ANC, or the ones who hang out at the lounge the most, or the girl or the guy who gets the most roses during your last Valentine's Day roses and brownie thing. Those are the ones that you will, if they say something, you will tend to go along with what they want a lot more as well, right? So, and one of the other things is that if you already don't have an opinion of whatever people are talking about, then you're also more willing to adjust to whatever the people around you are saying, if you don't have a strong belief or opinion about something all by yourself, right? So all of these things can increase the tendency for people to conform to other people's behavior. So up to now, we have discussed a little bit about persuasion, a little bit about why we go along with other people and mimic other people, why we conform, and we are moving on to the final bit of the lecture. And before we do, I want you to take some time to answer the questions that I'm going to ask you right now. So it has to be a yes or no answer, and then maybe you can think to yourself why that would be the case, right? So, number one, do you think that you're someone who generally follows the rules? So give it some thought and then think about this. Even if you say yes or no, doesn't matter. Now, if your lecturer asks you to do something in class, would you listen to this human being and do it, even if it's something that you are not really that comfortable with doing? I know there are some of you in this class who are not comfortable doing presentations, but the lecturer is asking you to do it, so you have no option and it's graded. So you might have instances like that in lectures all the time. So if it's something your lecturer is asking you to do, would you do it? then what if it's something that may put someone else in an uncomfortable situation? Remember the experiment we did with the prisoner's dilemma, where a group had to betray the other group? So it's something that makes you feel uncomfortable because you have to basically betray your friends for a couple of bonus points, and you still did it because the lecturer has asked you to do something, and because of other reasons as well, right? So if because the lecturer said it's graded, and because your friends in your group said, you know what, no, this is what we should do, right? So think about whether the answers to this is yes or no, and then I want you to go and watch this video. Now this is another famous experiment in psychology, one of the defining experiments in psychology that was done a long time ago. It's called the Milgram experiment. So very interesting. Again, you are going to learn a lot of things, and you're going to have a lot of questions in your head about why human beings do what they do. So just take some time to think about what happened here, and whether you would do the same thing if you were put in this situation. Why or why not? So it might not make sense for you unless you watch the video. So take some time, watch the video, and you'll realize that what are the kind of situations that push people to obey other human beings, as you see in the video. Is one thing is that if the person who's telling you to do whatever they're asking you to do seems like someone who has legitimate authority, whether it's a lecturer, whether it's an admin member at ANC, whether it's parents, whether it's your army commander, whoever it is, or a religious leader, someone that you perceive to be an authority figure, someone you perceive to be whose legitimate authority figure telling you to do something might push you to obey, even if you're in an uncomfortable place, and even if you don't want to do this particular thing, right? And the other thing is, people are also more willing to do, let's say, not so great, or rather let's just say nasty things to other human beings if you feel like there's a distance between you and whoever the victim is, as you saw in this video. So for example, this is why people find it so easy to be racist or towards other people, or army officers. You see all of these stories constantly about how army has invaded a village and burned down people's houses while people were there. It's somewhat because of this, all of this prejudice and all of the other opinions that have built up about how these human beings are distinctly different to us. They are the other race, they are distant from us, they are not like us. So we find it easy to obey orders and do nasty things to other human beings, right? And one of the other things is, especially if you are in a group, it's easier to do these things because of something that we call de-individuation, right? Because you'd see when people go for riots and all of these things, it's just like just one mass of slightly drunk human beings doing stupid things, breaking down buildings or whatever together, because you find it easy to feel liberated and do whatever you want to, because you feel anonymous in this particular group. There's social facilitation, like I told you about how the presence of other human beings make you do things more. And because of all of these things, again, we tend to obey orders even when we are doing something that's not the greatest thing. And how this has a long term impact is, let's say that we do things that we don't believe in. Let's say I am asked to say some really nasty, horrible, racist things to someone else, and I don't believe in any of these things, but I'm ordered by someone to do this. And what happens to human beings and the way we think is, if there's a huge difference between the way we think and the kind of actions that we do, something inside us, there's a sense of discomfort inside human beings that we call cognitive dissonance, where you believe in one thing but you're forced to do something else. Or you're and what human beings do then, unfortunately, is that they adjust what they feel or believe about a certain topic just to reduce that feeling of discomfort. So in that previous example I talked about, let's say I'm a a soldier in the Nazi Germany army who has to constantly spread horrible, nasty rumors about the Jewish community. And I absolutely don't believe in these things, but this is my job and I'm ordered to do it and I have to do it. And in the long run, because of this constant stress I feel inside about having to do something that I don't believe in, what will unfortunately happen to me is I will start to slowly actually believe the things that I am doing in. So I will actually start to believe the lies that I am telling people, the kind of nasty things that I'm making up about the Jewish community. I'll slowly start to believe this unconsciously almost, simply because I want to your minds naturally is just trying to reduce the stress that you feel inside because of what you have to do. So this is sort of where prejudice starts. So you don't have to be someone who's racist to become a racist. This is why human beings who seem perfectly normal human beings, you will see in these two experiments, the Milgram experiment and the Stanford experiment, perfectly ordinary average human beings becoming something that they never thought they could become, simply because they did things and then by doing it they started to believe in the things that they were actually doing. Right, so I hope I haven't confused you up to there. So we are moving on to the final slide. I promise you we are done. Is we are also trying to understand very quickly a little bit about prejudice, right? So one of the reasons that prejudice exists is because it's always easy to find someone else to blame. Right, so again, I'm a little obsessed with World War II. So Nazi Germany is a very good example. World War happened during a time there was recession, there was not enough jobs for the Germans. So Hitler found it really easy to say it's because the Jewish people are so and so, they are the ones who are taking all of our jobs away, and find an outlet for all of the anger the people were feeling towards being out of work and unemployed, and they found a sort of scapegoat to blame this on. So simply enough, this particular explanation for prejudice is called the scapegoat theory. Then, what I talked to you about before was also this idea of other race effects. So, human beings, even children actually, research shows that you're always better at recalling faces of your own race accurately than faces of other races. This is why human beings are happy to say, if they look at a Korean video or a Chinese or a Japanese video, or like, whole bunch of people dancing, you'll say, I can't tell them apart from each other. Whereas if Koreans come to Sri Lanka, they find it difficult to tell apart Indians, Pakistanis, and Sri Lankans, right? So it's always the same thing overall, no matter what race we are talking about. It's that we generally have a tendency to believe our own race more, to recall even the faces of our own race more, and they feel that these people are our people very naturally and very instinctively, which sort of leads to us to this dangerous place where we then easily believe that those people, the other race, is not our people and are different and somehow not as important as we are, right? Then finally, an unfortunate way that human beings think in sometimes, and this is somewhat similar to what we believe as is karma, is that is called the just world phenomenon, where we think that when we look at someone, we see something is happening to someone, we think that this is the way the world is. So if something is happening to this person, they probably deserve it, which is an extremely unfortunate way to look at it. And remember what we talked about at the very beginning of the lecture, called the fundamental attribution error, where we always overestimate the influence someone's personality has on their actions, and we don't take into account the kind of situation this human being is put in, right? So we always think it's this person who's at fault, and we always think that if this is the world the world runs, they probably deserve what was coming to them, right? So all of these things lead us to feel a certain way about other people, out of which springs prejudice. So your assignment for the day, now that you've listened to me rant and rant for I don't know how long, is to, these particular theories that I put up on the slides are what we have been discussing throughout the lecture today. What I want you to do is watch Jojo Rabbit.